ultimate goal of history is to record what happened in the past so we can reflect on it in the present and make a better future. But what happens if the past no longer existed? The purpose of this film is to explore a new phenomenon which society has failed to get a grip on, and why the future will be a stranger place than you think. To understand how fragile history really is, we must consider what we do and don't know about the past. We can therefore thank the inefficient rubbish men of ancient Egypt and unique weather conditions for the little knowledge we do have about early human civilizations. Archaeologists and classicists have been excavating and deciphering bits of papyrus paper and animal skin parchments from a site south-southwest of Cairo since the late 19th century. The 500,000 fragments of literary, cultural, legal, scientific, administrative, religious and political documents go as far back as the last dynasty of ancient Egypt, the Ptolemaic Kingdom, and run through to the Muslim conquest of Egypt in the 7th century AD. The texts are written in Greek, Ancient Egyptian, Coptic, Latin, Arabic, Hebrew, Aramaic and Syriac, making the already mammoth task of putting together and translating the scraps of information even more difficult. How hard exactly? The University of Oxford's annual Papyrus catalogue has registered more than 5,000 items so far. The project started in 1898 and continues to this very day. A more vivid picture of our forefathers' true history, therefore, from day-to-day work to political and religious structures, is yet to be fully revealed. Even when it comes to more contemporary figures, such as 17th century born William Shakespeare, we don't know as much as we think we do. That is probably because figures of the past, beyond academics and amateur historians, didn't think much of preserving their history as they looked into the future. The modern media age has allowed us to counter this slide into the historical abyss and document our lives in a multitude of accessible ways, including film, books, and in audio format. Libraries and other institutions have traditionally catalogued and preserved these cultural, scientific, and political items. This should be all much easier in our digital age, but there's a big fundamental problem. The problem is that the old internet is dissolving before our very eyes. That is because hyperlinks, the connective tissue of the World Wide Web, are deteriorating and becoming disconnected. The issue was first identified in the late 1990s by an American academic. Wallace Colher explored the short memory and mind-changing phenomena of the web. He later discovered that external hyperlinks typically have a half-life of 2 years. That means if you had a website with 100 external hyperlinks and you check back in 2 years' time, only 50 would be pointing to the correct web page. Some web pages would have died, while other URLs would have been updated as part of a problem called content drift. Considering that there is estimated to be more than 1.7 billion websites, the scale and scope of link decay is vast, and it leads you to one conclusion. Most of the internet is dead, and the rest of it is dying. So Tim Berners-Lee, inventor of the web, has been well aware of the issue for some time. He urged early webmasters to be more careful when changing URLs. Here's what he wrote. When someone follows a link and it breaks, they generally lose confidence in the owner of the server. They are also frustrated emotionally and practically from accomplishing their goal. Enough people complain all the time about dangling links that I hope the damage is obvious. I hope it's also obvious that the reputation damage to the maintainer of the server whose document vanished. But why should we care about link decay today? The real life consequence is that important information is going missing right, left and centre. Think about the courts and think about the first draft of history, journalism. A 2021 Harvard University study of the New York Times website found that 25% of all links were completely inaccessible, with link rot becoming more and more common over time. The report also found that 6% of links from 2018 had rotted, as compared to 43% of links from 2008 and 72% of links from 1998. 53% of all articles that contained deep links had at least one rotted link. On top of that, some reachable links were not pointing to the information journalists had mentioned. An additional 30% of healthy links from a human-reviewed sample of 4,500 had drifted significantly since publication, with content drift becoming more common over time. 4% of reachable links published in articles from 2019 had drifted, as compared to 25% of reachable links from articles published in 2009. So how can we help stop the scourge of link decay and reclaim our digital history? The researchers from Harvard University offered up some helpful suggestions to counter the decay, including working to improve the visibility of digital archives and considering what to link to in the first place. Here's what they said. Before linking, journalists should decide whether they want a dynamic link to a volatile web, risking rot or content drift, but enabling further exploration of a topic, or a frozen piece of archival material fixed to represent exactly what the author would have seen at the time of writing. In addition, the academics urged newsrooms to consider adopting tools to help seamlessly preserve their work, including partnerships between information professionals, libraries, and news media outlets. A great example would be the work of the Internet Archive. Most journalists will be familiar with its Wayback Machine, which allows users to look up old and sometimes defunct websites. But the digital library is much more than that. It holds more than 36 million books and texts, over 11 million movies and videos, and 15 million audio files. So far, the Wayback Machine has been able to preserve 780 billion web pages. The US headquartered non-profit has been running since 1996, and preserving a web page via the Internet Archive is brutally simple. It only takes a minute or two. And the Internet archaeologists are also looking for volunteers. A standout project is the effort to try and archive newsletters which present their own problems, including having to reply to initial email for confirmation. Another team is hoping to archive YouTube's metadata. But why should anyone care about all of this in the first place? The case study of the rubbish tip in Egypt shows just how fragile our history, culture, and shared knowledge is. Looking back at the grand scope of humanity's existence, we are part of the 300-year-old industrial age, in which the internet age, over 30 years and running, is an extremely important part when it comes to productivity, progress, and technological advancements. Through carelessness, indifference, and ignorance, we are allowing our history to disintegrate. If nothing else, old knowledge, as Google is discovering, can help save lives.